Greetings, everybody. Welcome to what is known as the first synth chat, a very requested thing on the channel. And yeah, let's start it off right by playing you a little thing that I have prepared for today, specifically for the event. How nifty is that? I mean, like today, instead of like being on the spot, I figured I would, prepare some stuff, and in some sense, try and make a more of a organized program of the whole procedure and everything like that. But today we're talking about the multi-moog. Yes, indeed, and it's a very dear synth to me, in that it's like my first synth, my first synthesizer. And I remember that I got it. Rihanna said, "You're such a hoarder." And it's so weird because I have things like in what I call the rare fact file. And so what this is my original Long and McQuaid purchase report. And it basically goes to say, hey, I'm 23 years old, and I want to buy the multi-moog, and it's $350. I thought it was actually $250, but apparently I paid $200 on my credit card. How crazy is that I even have that slip? And then I financed the rest at $11 a month. And I don't know what the total charge of that would be, but it's somewhere around $350. And that includes a beautiful case that came with it that you'll see in a sec. But the synthesizer is pretty much been a long time in the history, in the family of Skinny Puppy, I'll say. I've showed it many times in our chats. Basically, you can see here on one of the very first gigs that I did with Ogre as Hello Death Day, that you can see the wood side here that I'm utilizing this synth at that gig. And in fact, Ogre is utilizing the micro moog. So the micro moog is kind of like a single oscillator version of the multi-moog. And we each had, well, as a matter of fact, I believe Bill bought the micro moog, and he would have it in his setup down there. And you can see that I have the multi-moog there. And so if you've heard any sort of like early 80s Skinny Puppy stuff, you've heard the synth. And mostly what I used this Moog for live was noise. Heavy modulated noise that we'll also get into here in the discussion. This is the micro Moog, and basically it came before the multi-moog, and is a fantastic noise-making synth. It's essentially the exact same circuit board as the multi-moog. The multi-moog has a second circuit board added on that allows for the extra controls, but essentially it is the same synth underneath. And beautiful synth. Actually, when I first got mine, as you can see, it did look that good. It still looks good. It's a little dusty, but I checked just today the value of a multi-moog, which just seems kind of crazy, that it's going for about $5,900, as low as $4,500. Average price there, I'm going to say $5,000, which is kind of crazy for a synthesizer that came out between 1978 to 81, derived from the micro moog, as I had said. The interesting thing about it is I guess the 24 decibel per octave Moog transistor ladder low pass voltage controlled filter. Let's all say that real fast 3 times, and we'll get into that here anyways. We'll get into all the details today of this fine synthesizer. But first of all, one of the things that I found was very important is that if you were deciding to utilize this synthesizer in any way, basically, you really would have to tune it. And, you know, heaven forbid going on stage with an untuned synthesizer. The whole aspect of being able to play live is definitely it's so funny. I used to have to go on stage just like literally like, you know, 10 minutes before we'd start and just like hit the A440. So the A440 is a note that basically can be generated from the mini Moog. It's a switch. You turn it on. It gives you a straight A tone, as we'll see here. So I'm going to call this the tuning song. Yes, indeed, a scaling issue. Oops. MULTI MOOG. Here, between oscillator A and oscillator B, which is your two-voice. It's a two-voice monophonic synthesizer. So let's switch to oscillator A, and here's your waveforms here. Between a saw, I guess, and a square wave. I don't know what you call the in-between wave. It's kind of like a ladder. And that is oscillator A, and then you've got an octave. You've also got, for oscillator B, in just listening to oscillator B, pretty much the same, except this one has the ability to double to a sub oscillator and a octave down oscillator. Also kind of a nice tone. So like a mix between a square wave and a sine wave. Mixing the two together, you come up with your final shape. And as I said, the octave, which doesn't sound very happy at the moment, and with the two voices, you can add noise. It's basically a white noise. Next, you would be moving to the filter section, which is a low-pass filter with a fair amount of resonance. What's cool about it is that, and I must say that you've got a filter contour, which is a filter envelope, and a loudness envelope, which is called the contour here. The contour amount is also the amount of shaping that's going on the filter. It's like another shaper, contour all amount. Generally, these controls here, the filter contour and loudness contour, are determined with the press of a switch or a key. So this is the time it takes for the sound to come on, or the time it takes for the filter to kick in after the key has been touched. And what's really nice is that down here, you've got a kind of, I'll call it the filter mode section, or filter mod by Oscillator B, which is nice. It kind of makes it a way more crazier filter. You can go weak or strong. So it's like a few different modes of filter. This filter mode, full and normal tone, so you can see you got quite a few selections there of what would be known as like filter shaping, which is kind of cool, and filter almost amplitude modulation and stuff. Here we got a filter sustain, which is like if you've got a sound that is triggering and you want it to sustain longer. That is actually dependent on the release switch. Or shorter. It does really nice subharmonics. This synthesizer has been used on a lot of Skinny Puppy songs like Draining Faces and The Morn and stuff like that for its fabulous subharmonics. And also it's always been utilized on stage with Skinny Puppy for some of the more noisier bits that have been done. Okay, this loudness bypass is essentially just like shutting the synth off. The sustain is like the difference between a long or short signal. It's the same with the release here. So very kind of minute differences in a lot of aspects. This is where we head to the modulation section, and this is where, in my estimation or opinion, this is where this synth really shines, between the modulation section here and the ribbon wheel, or the ribbon control modulation wheel. So when you're in the modulation section here, you've got a choice between the rate, which is your LFO speed. Up here you've got a sawtooth waveform for the rate for the LFO, or square wave. You can set the modulation to a filter contour, the bend of a note, sample and hold auto. Or sample and hold when you touch the key. Only when you put up the mod wheel, though. So that's actually going to the filter, and now we can apply that to oscillator A and B too. That's when things can start to get a little bit crazy. That's just putting it to the filter on auto. So a lot of Glass Houses was actually composed utilizing that as the bed track for the demo, the drums, and other various hand-played tricks to compose the original demo. The section here, the keyboard touch section, it's similar in the sense that you can apply modulation by touch sensitivity to the keys, which is either a bend or a modulation, and the amount, and then where the destination is going to. So here it can be oscillator A and B filter. Let me just take the noise off. Kind of cool. This keyboard needs a tune-up, because not all of the keys are responding as delightfully. That's touch sensitivity here from the keyboard touch to the modulation filter, and then just by touch sensitivity, which is really cool. So I guess the only real downside to the synth is that there isn't really any external control on the synthesizer at all. Like, there's no triggering, there's no, even though it says keyboard triggering, there is no triggering from external sources. It basically is just a one-trick pony on here. You're going to play them all. You're going to play it all by ear. I believe that one time that I did actually get this synth to trigger, but when I looked into it and looked at all of the controls on the back, which I'll show you in a sec, there was no source for it. Going on to the buttons on the side here, you see that the ribbon routing is just for A or B, and that's corresponding to the ribbon, whether or not it controls both oscillators. The trig external output, I believe this is for obviously external control with the ribbon and so on externally. Nothing to do with the synth internally. Keyboard triggering, single or multiple. Again, not much effect on the actual sound. Glide is where when you let go of the key and how long it takes to get from one note to the other. In the case, like you touch a key. So that got there pretty quick. That's fairly slow. So the quicker you have it on there, that's none. And you can just switch glide off up there anyways, and that will make that not active. The mod wheel here, of course, is the thing that all important, whatever you have assigned here, as far as your modulation is concerned and where it's going to be applied to. As I said, the filter, the oscillator, and the filter, both oscillators and the filter, or just the oscillators, or just oscillator B, and off. Coming around back, power, it looks like this is unit number 1270, and we have an accessory power, don't know what that's for, touch mod effects, audio inputs, the S-trig, oscillator A and B, and filter input, an on-off control for a pedal for glide and modulation. Looks like there is some outputs here, one for keyboard force, a ribbon output, and also that's another secondary keyboard output of some kind. And then you've got a high and low audio output, and also S-trig. S-trig is the way that Moog basically chose to trigger most of their things. I personally do not have any S-trig devices to trigger it with. So basically, yeah, I'm kind of shit out of luck. But that's the back. It's just, you know, it would be nice if it had like a click trig in for control of stuff, but it doesn't. A lovely keyboard. Out by the cactus is the wondrous MULTI MOOG case with lots of historical nice stuff on it, like just stuff from the beginning. I can see the grasshopper, I can see a Wiltern, I can see network backstage pass on there, the Metro. That Metro's got to go back right to the very beginning, I'll bet. That Cat Productions, that first Vancouver shows. A really sturdy case too. Nice, still works. Quite often these cases can be can get pretty beat up. But yeah, I love this case too. So yeah, it came with this great case. So make sure if you get your synth, you keep all the stickers. And well, look at that, there's for Dresden. Oh, I didn't realize I took the synth to Dresden even. So yeah, like I say, this synth has been with us through a lot of time, a lot of history. And yeah, the MULTI MOOG. Oh, I'm back. So yeah, so far so good. I hope it's technically working out for you guys out there. And I made sure to say out in a very Canadian accent just to say what's up to everybody out there in Canada joining us today. Also everybody from Patreon, since this is Patreon exclusive. I might do a shorter version of this. As you can see, there's a pre-made stuff, and have that be a public post. You know what I'm saying? Just like a little bit of craziness. We're coming up here I'm going to invite, well, it looks like that one went off for the second, but yeah, there's another camera downstairs. And yeah, let's put them back in the waiting room. It has to be refreshed. So anyways, I'm going to show you the synth live, but also there's a few more recorded things about what I specifically like about the synth. I think when you first get your first synth, you'll never forget it. Like, because you'll sit there and you'll think that knobs do things that they don't do, when actually they're doing something else, and so on. So later, when you learn what everything really does, and you reach for the knob that you want when you're playing, that's sort of like a super fun time to be owning your synth and feeling like that's why you would buy another synth. Is because you feel like, okay, I have conquered that that step. So yeah, the next bit here that I'm going to show you a couple of things. I hope it works out as well. Is basically again, I thought that, you know, when I first got the synth, I kind of compared when I would go play a synth, if it would do sounds like I would say from John Carpenter or Videodrome or something like that. So I commonly used to kind of test those limits, and this is sort of like one of those ones that again, hold on, let me just check something here before we do this. Yes, okay, everything's fine here. Okay, yeah, let's roll with this section, and this is called like Why I Like It, Jump Part 1. And I'm back again with a special guest live from the studio, the MULTI MOOG. Hey, MULTI MOOG. We've heard that you can actually speak. Or is that Josh Hawley just told me that you actually should ask the Moog a few questions? What songs have you played on, Moog? Well, let's see. All of the initial Remission and Bites, and you can probably recognize the sound of it. All the back and forth stuff, especially it has a sound, back and forth sound. And today I'm only monitoring mostly the dry signal, but like I have been applying a little bit of PCM41 delay on there just to give it some space. And I always thought that when you add a PCM41 to the equation, you're always going to end up with a more delicious taste. It's like adding some spice to your recipe. But center bullet. The good thing about the synth is it can be utilized not only as a lead synth, but also as a bass synth. And this synth kind of has, as it was shown a little earlier, it has a bit of a scaling issue. And so that happens with a lot of synths over time. And the way around that is that you see that the top 2 octaves or the bottom 2 octaves will be fine if you tune them and then work with that section. So you're going to do a bass line or whatever. You can tune it that way. Or you can take it into the shop and get it repaired, which these days is exceptionally expensive. Capacitors and resistors that need to be replaced always adds up to a lot more than you think. So actually what's weird is that when we got a couple of the synths restored here at the studio, namely the ARC 2600 and the VCS3, is the cost to repair them was more than I initially spent on them. So I have no doubt that it would be more than $350 to get it so it's like perfect scale. But in the collection here, it's not to say the synth gets used like regularly. It's in the array of what I call the original skinny puppy wall, which is instruments used to create the original sounds. There's lots of requests to go through that section piece by piece. So with this today, I'm definitely taking steps towards that. I noticed today there's questions from you guys on Patreon in regards to this chat, which sometimes when you do a chat you don't know if there's going to be questions or not, but yes, let's take some questions. Scott Poison, hi Kev, love anything to do with the Moog name attached to it. I'm curious about a certain question. Does a multi do oscillator pitch modulated by noise? Good question. It does on the inputs on the back. I can imagine that there is a modulation source from the 1/4-inch inputs back there. I have not actually tried that. I always rather instead fed my synth out through a distortion pedal, and thus achieved some interesting stuff. But the pitch can be modulated by waveforms. Basically the filter contour, basically the saw wave, the square wave, and all sorts of things, as I kind of demonstrated there. I have a hardware SH101 and it does some noise modulation. Yeah, I mean, in some ways. I gather the SH101 maybe even came after this. So let's see here. Thank you for your questions, guys. Exit, curious how you feel about all playing Mini Moog plugins versus the real deal, as well as the boutique versions of synths like Behringer Pro 1. Well, I'm going to get into that in this series, that's for sure. As far as I know, there isn't a Mini Moog BST, and if there is, I basically have not checked them out, because, of course, have the real one. Quite often I look at virtual synths as just different synths. Things like that. By the way, I'm looking at the questions from Patreon. Thank you for your support. John Dillinger, the super fast laser sound right at the beginning of Far Too Frail. Is that the multi-moog? No, that was the Pro 1 in extreme modulation form. I know what you mean. It's that modulated sound. Now, a lot of times, the three synths being used was the Pro 1, the multi-moog, and the mini moog. And so that's what you're often hearing on those songs. How did you go about making that? I'll go into that when I get into the Pro 1 episode. I noticed in the OG demo version it's much slower, almost pulsing sound. Is there any modern synth that might be similar? To be quite honest, I don't have a large amount of excessively modern synths, I don't think. I don't have a matriarch or grandmother, even though I have tried them, and they were very, very nice. I enjoyed them, but I myself cannot make comparison. I'll let you guys make comparison from some of the things today. Drew, in your time with the Multimoog, did you ever use source patches that you had maybe created or found elsewhere? Could you please elaborate on the use of patches before downloading them was an option? Wow, yeah, no, the Moog is well before even the word downloading. It's entirely analog, and so the only sort of patch sources that you would have would be a pencil-drawn map of the face with the settings of the knobs, and that was your only way of storing a patch on this type of synthesizer. There was no saving a patch whatsoever. There is none still. Maybe you can on the virtual. Martin Fay, I had a brief encounter with the Multimoog at the Johnny Roadhouse Music, Manchester, UK. Still, I believe, standing. I had a play, dismissed at 30 years hindsight, screaming, why? Though the shop did provide me with an ARP Odyssey Pro 1 at bargain prices and more. Yeah, and it was probably a zero off the price that it is now. Who would have known that we all should have just gone out in 1984 and bought Moog synthesizers, as Bill Lieb and I did. I believe that Bill bought the Mini Moog. I'm thinking like just maybe a month or two after I bought the Multi. And I also remember, I'm pretty sure that the Micro Moog we went in after because it was sitting there and it was only like $100. I'm almost certain of that. Kuz, I'd love to see you demo the Kurzweil K2000, the MC505. I'll get around to that, especially if the 505 still works. I'm certainly hopeful. I haven't turned it on for a few months. Sometimes things like that can happen. Lauren, we should lobby Cherry Otter to make a multi-moog emulation. It'd be interesting to see how faithful it would be. I mean, to me, the last example of what I played is the perfect example of what really it sounds like. It can be more because it's not a mini moog, put it that way. The mini moog has just a completely different face about it, like as far as like how it occupies a piece. And the multi-moog is basically, yeah, I'd say more like can be a beautiful synth or a very, very much more radically, modulation factors on it are much more radical than the mini moog. I mentioned this a few times on their Facebook page along with a Krumar Spirit. Yeah, I also have a Krumar Spirit here. Honestly, I would like to compare the Krumar Spirit with the multi-moog and say, for me, the multi-moog right now currently wins, if you can believe it. I think that there's something about the sculptability of the modulation factors, the way that they work, it just makes it a little bit sweeter. I don't know what the word can be. Thank you very much. Russ, I love the idea for the series you plan on covering samplers and drum machines. I'd like to see what you guys would like to see. I know you brought up many times about sampling, radio, TR-808 triggering, and of course the legendary Pro 1 and how it was utilized with Skinny Puppy, so on. So I got to get to those, that's for sure. I also think that the drum machines we'll probably get a look at, as well as a lot of the Roland or whatever. We'll just go bit by bit then. Peter M, fantastic idea, can't wait. Wasn't 1983 the year you actually got it? No. It says right here, September 5th, 1984. How would you compare it to the Pro 1? There's a hugely different in the sense that the Pro 1 is entirely responsible for the triggering wonderness, and also it has a really heavy modulation section as well. But for some reason, again, the multi-moog, it's possibly the transistor ladder filter in the Moog that just makes it a little bit more spacier. You'd never come up with a sequence, so to speak, on the multi-moog unless you're using some form of S-trig sequencer. I kind of went into the description there saying I don't have an S-trig sequencing device. I would love to hear what the multi-moog sounds like with the S-trig sequencing device. If anybody has one kicking around or whatever, yeah, I should check that out. I never have, and I think that's a good question. The Pro one's a different pony altogether, though. Gabe, Sanita, thank you very much for doing these. Very excited to hear about most cherished pieces and memorable experiences with them. Are there any modern or vintage equivalents to sound and features to the multi-moog that might be easier for one to get their hands on? UHE does a fantastic job on all their synths. I highly recommend getting into UHE, and checking out all of their synths. And also Cherry Audio is doing a fantastic job, and affordable too. There are many other virtual synths. I'm just touching the bases here. Many great emulations out there. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars, no. Lastly, is there a funny story you remember about a time you were brapping with Dwayne, with him or with the multi-moog? It definitely was the thing I always remember about how we wrote the better part of the albums from when Dwayne joined in Mind TPI, and basically all the way to the process, is that we, up until I would say Last Rites, we basically had the same setup. So we would utilize all these same things in our setup each time. Because we didn't really go out and pick up like a new thing all the time. So I think we just became really proficient at these things. And so the multi-moog got sampled and used a fair bit, but it would also get utilized for noise and stuff like that. But it wasn't really, I can't really think of a funny story except that it just provided just such a space on the live shows. If you go back and listen to the extra tracks on the original Back and Forth that came out of the long version, there's live in Winnipeg recordings on there where we blew the monitors on this. I suppose this is the best funny story. We blew the monitors on the stage, so we couldn't hear specifically what each other. We couldn't hear really. Just all we could hear was everything going out the fronts, which has a massive delay. And it's just at that point you realize, wow, I don't even know how we can play the rest of the set. So in Winnipeg, we decided to just keep on going, and the rest of the set turns into basically a screamo set without playing any songs, just basically all live improvisation. And I remember for the whole rest of the night I was just playing the multi-moog with the modulation factors up, and then Ogre was just screaming and Bill was playing the micro-moog. So it was basically a multi-micro-moog jam when we realized we had to abandon ship in Winnipeg, and I believe that was the fall of 1985. So if you're looking for a live recording of that, I believe, as I said, other than Back and Forth, the version 2, yeah, it's out there. Let's see if there's any more questions here. Peter M. On VST Field, there is a Synthtronic Noir, but I have no idea how much similar to the real hardware it is. Seems to be built on samples. Probably is. Feature-wise, the Moog Grandmother has some similarities to the multi-moog. I would think that the Grandmother is a fabulous synth. I tried it, and I thought what would be the reason why I would get this right now? And I thought, this is just unnecessary, even though that reverb in it, the spring reverb, sounds delicious. Uh, I would say it's probably a step above the multi-mode. I want to say that. John Dillinger, I'm pretty sure it is sample based. I'm not sure how to form it is. I have it, but it is kind of like a multi-instrument between the multi, micro, and prodigy. Okay, here, I gather we're talking about the Syntronic Noir. I also wonder how close Moog's Mariana comes, though I don't think it really is a bass synth. Hard for me to compare since I don't own a multi-moog. Well, the multi-moog is a great synth for, like, if you think about the song Double Cross, all that is like bass from the multi-moog, or Center Bullet is all bass, so the bass line is hand played from that. The songs from the early era have a lot of that, but as soon as we got the MIDI Moog, we realized that that was really the way to go. There, it was much crazier. I will say. Oops, I think I somehow lost this thread here. Oh, here it is. Here. Sorry about that. Yeah, was the sequences in Warlock from a multi-moog sample? No, it was not. That was Insonic ESQ1 sequenced by Pro24. Yes, correct. Let's see what else I'm missing here. Hey, Kevin, remind us, what was the latest release this was used on? Wow, good question. That gets a really good question. I couldn't answer that faithfully and give you an honest answer. I'm going to say Tear Garden was probably the last time it was pulled out, like the Brown Acid Caveat. Thanks for your comments, Scary Gary, and Joseph Ibarra, thank you so much for making the gear episodes. Thank you very much. I can't wait for the Pro 1. Circus in the Sky, live brap. Hey, it could happen. CB invites something else with a synth, and the next thing you know, we have a Sunday Braps. True story. Is it network latency, or is your mind just slurring from the effects of a dope jam? Oh, I don't know. Larry Clanky, a great idea. The multi-moog is probably the only moog I care to have alongside a new Muse, which is also like to have. I remember in 1996 I missed a multi for $100. You see, always be bummed about that. Though I did not end up buying a micromoog for $150 about 10 years ago. Yeah, they went cheap when they went. But as you saw, not anymore. Ty, oh yeah, thanks for doing this. I recently got my hands on a multi-moog and have been impressed by the range of sounds I can get out of it. One of the first things I did was make a couple of S-String cables with a funky Cinch Jones connector so that I can trigger it from my other gear. Oh, wow, let's have the formula for that, or send me some. Now and then I'll accidentally come across familiar things, especially when feeding the output of a Metal Driver or one of the Korg rack delays, like, whoa. There's Love. Hey, there's a good one. Love. That's all multi-moog. Film. There's another one. All multi-moog. Soar, a masterpiece. That's all Pro 1. Every single sound. Drums, synth, every sound in the song. Pro 1. John Begg, I'm really looking forward to this. Carl, Matthew, do you remember the first thing you tried to do with it when you got home? I do. And I believe that at the time, I was really into Legendary Pink Dots, who wasn't into it. So I was like picking out the song Love in a Flame. No, is it Love in a Flame Round Envelope? No, Love Puppets. I was picking out Love Puppets, and I thought, like, yeah, this is certainly something to do. Let's see what we got here. Nextly, it's a good question you asked, because the very first thing that I actually composed was, can anyone guess? Well, the very first Skinny Puppy song I composed using the synthesizer. And the answer shall be depicted in the next video. And let's let it roll, and you shall find out. By the way, this is an exclusive version for this video of this song, so I hope you enjoy. But yeah, let's roll it. Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. Well, everybody, I hope you can hear me. I think you can. Thank you so much, Rihanna, for taking over there with the fingers, well, so that I could leave the room and basically rejoin myself back up here. But yeah, that was a live jam, courtesy of I guess Rihanna's help. Thank you very much, Rihanna. And also to Stanley the cat for helping as well. I'd also like to thank everybody here on Patreon for the encouragement to basically do this and to sort of move ahead with this idea. I hope that it has stuck out, like stayed, and you've been able to basically hear what's going on. But yeah, my manicure, I know. I have, you got to understand, basically when you hit keys all the time, if you have like bone there and no fingernail, basically you hurt yourself. And Scully, you have being my assistant, you basically aren't in town to do my pedicure. So Priscilla knows about that. And yeah, big up to all of you out there, Black Agent, Nick, Exit 99, Scully, even though I find that rather insulting. I don't care. What about the injury on my hand? Let me talk about that for a sec. Poison oak, folks. Don't go anywhere near poison oak. But believe it or not, I got these marks on my hand and I went to the doctor and then they burned them off with ice. And that's the remnant, the ice freeze. And so it finally looks like it's going to be gone. And I had one on my shoulder too. It could very well be basal cell again, but they do a few things together. But basically, no. That what you see is my goopy hand is a injury from, as I said, from poison oak, and then transferred into a skin issue and all sorts of yummy stuff. But I hope, let's see here if I've answered everybody's things. As I said, thank you very, very much for the support. And what I would also like to say is that coming up soon, we'll hopefully have more we'll have more episodes of this series. If you liked it, please say something about it in the comments and subscribe to the channel. And if you can, apparently that does really well. So anyways, thank you very much, guys, for joining, and have an awesome Sunday.